Westwood Planning Board meeting. All meetings are video recorded by Westwood Media Center and filmed live on Westwood Media Center's YouTube and local government channels, Comcast Channel 12 and Verizon Channel 42. As a friendly reminder, please turn off your cell phone ringers and please stay muted while not speaking to assist with clear audio. The meeting will be civil and all people treated respectfully. The format of the meeting will be when an item is called by the chair, the applicant will present their application to the board. The board will proceed to staff comments. The board members will ask questions of the applicant and have board discussion. For public hearing items, the public will then be given an opportunity to comment. Items that are not a public hearing, the opportunity for public comment will be at the discretion of the board chair. Please, only one person speaking at a time. When it's time for public comment period for public hearings, the chair will ask those wishing to speak to raise their hand, to use the raise hand feature in Zoom, or attendees may type a question in the Q&A section. To raise your hand, click on the raise hand icon at the bottom of the screen and wait for the host to call on you and unmute you. You may click lower hand after use. For those participating by phone, you can raise your hand by pressing *9. And wait for the host to unmute you. Once unmuted, please identify yourself by stating your name and address for the record. Please direct all comments and questions through the chair. All people will be given the opportunity to speak, but in the interest of time and fairness, repetitive or off-topic comments may be cut short. For items that are not a public hearing, public comment is at the discretion of the board and chair. For items that are not a public hearing, it's encouraged to place comments in the Q&A and the chair may read and respond. Attendees will not be on video, but will be unmuted if called upon during the public comment portion. Thank you. Have we gained a Kate?
Yes, so sorry to be late. Sorry about that.
Hey, no problem. You missed the best part, but that's fine. All right, Nora, any changes to tonight's agenda?
No changes to the agenda, but there is one item on the agenda that you've been requested to have an immediate continuance. That's for the Verizon application. So I don't know if you want to get that out of the way or just do that when you come up to that application.
I don't think it matters.
I don't think anyone's here to represent them. So
I was going to say, unless there's public, why don't we do it now? And then when we come to it at that point, we'll remind people that it's been continued already.
Okay, let me get you the motion.
Okay, someone like to make a motion to continue this particular hearing?
Could you make that a little bigger, Nora? Thank you. I move the planning board continue the public hearing for the Wireless Communication Overlay District WCOD special permit application filed by Cellco Partnership doing business as Verizon Wireless to Tuesday, April 11th, 2023 at 7 p.m. in the Champaign Meeting Room located at 50 Carby Street, Westwood, Mass, unless the governor or state legislature extend the suspension of certain provisions of the open meeting laws, MGL Chapter 30A, subsection 18, allowing for remote meeting participation beyond the current expiration date of March 30th, 2023, in which case this public hearing will instead be held remotely via Zoom. In the town website will be updated to include a updated meeting agenda, and Zoom information will be provided on town's calendar on the homepage at https://www.townhall.westwood.ma.us/.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this continuance? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Ellen?
Aye.
Josh?
Aye.
Phil?
Aye.
Kate?
Aye.
I vote aye also. Okay, so what is first tonight, Nora?
The first item on the agenda is the FMUOD application for the Obed Baker House property, and this is a continuation of the hearing that you had on March 7th. So let me bring over Christine Meany. And Christine, you can tell me if there's anyone else with you.
Sorry, I thought we were doing the switch.
Christine, is there anyone else who you'd like to have brought over?
Oh, okay, hold on. Sorry. Jerry Dundon might be
Yes.
attending,
Okay, I see him.
and Warren.
Warren.
Warren
Yes.
Friedenfeld.
All right, they've both been promoted to panelists.
There's a Rodney Grace with his hand raised. Could that be asking to be brought over?
I'm not familiar who that is. No.
Okay.
Are we all
there-
set? Oh, sorry.
So I just there's a comment in the chat from Rodney Grace, and there's another one from Fatina. I believe they both apply to the next application. So we will get to those comments, but we'll discuss them in public participation for this one as well. So why don't we begin with Christine's presentation on the Obed Baker House property?
Okay, hi, I'm Christine Meany with Site Design Professionals. Here to update you on the changes that we've made to our application as discussed during the last public hearing. If I could, Bradley, if I could pull up those. Sorry, I just need to share the screen. Is it that one? Oh.
Which one?
Maybe the colored ones. Okay.
I think it is.
Oh, the one before with the yellow highlights.
Oh,
Okay, so these are plans that show in yellow the items that we changed on the plan per the last meeting. One of the comments was to move the handicap parking space, which I did to allow for van access. I also moved the snow storage away as far away from the wetland as possible. We used to have snow storage in this area and I removed it. One of the comments was, let's see. One of Beta's comments was to have on the plan that the lots are to be combined. So that notation is right here. I did reduce the vehicle turnout payment per Beta's comments. I'm not sure if that's 100% resolved yet. I just received their new comment letter at the end of the day today. So I'll have to contact Phil tomorrow so we can maybe go over these live.
Phil is on this meeting, so
Oh,
after you make your presentation, Phil can comment.
Okay. I just wanted to give enough access for, both spots to turn out. I think his comment was, it was a little too close to the top of the slope or to the, but it's right along the fence. So all the stormwater is going to be pitching into the center of the parking lot, into the existing catch basin. Let's see, another comment was Conservation Commission didn't want any white pines. So we had 2 proposed white pines and I'm proposing Eastern rosebud trees instead, which are pollinator friendly trees. Let's see, scrolling down, just a few comments regarding the erosion control. I added a temporary soil stockpile area. I added a tracking pad, which I have to make a little bit bigger and possibly move. I don't know if I can move it, but it has to be 50 feet long. I per Beta's comments, we described the soils encountered on the site a little bit more detailed. And just added the stone construction entrance pad detail, a silt sack catch basin detail for the existing drainage catch basins both on the site and in the cemetery driveway. And one other change we made to the plan, let's see. Oh, okay, sorry. Okay, is right here. The site surveyor actually went out and field located the existing trees. And it's hard to tell on this plan, but we've designated with an X the trees that are to be removed because of the site construction. And all of the trees basically in this area are going to be saved. Any invasives that are growing on them, vines, will be removed, and all these trees will remain, as well as these trees are all in the street layout, so those will all remain as well. A couple other changes as requested. Our operation and maintenance plan now specifies no rock salt shall be used for de-icing. We're proposing magnesium chloride, which is more environmentally friendly, or other alternatives that are environmentally friendly. And organic fertilizer shall be used, and that's part of the, O&M plan. Just one other thing to mention that was discussed during the last meeting was the use of hazardous materials. I know that was discussed in depth. We do have a little more information. I actually submitted the Mass DEP. They have a list of all of the state very small, large generators. So this facility is going to operate in a similar manner to the Banfield Animal Hospitals. There's 2 in Westwood, and they are classified as very small quantity generators. And Jerry Dundon has actually, maybe if he could speak, he's researched this extensively over the past couple weeks. And we will get you a revised opinion letter from an environmental professional regarding the use of hazardous materials for this property. But Jerry, if he could speak as to why right now we believe that the site is a very small quantity generator.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, the issue from my perspective, it was pointed out correctly by Mr. Ames at the last meeting that I had made a mistake in assuming that Massachusetts was exactly the same as the EPA rulings, and therefore I had mentioned about a certain amount of acutely hazardous waste. Obviously, he was correct in saying that Massachusetts is different, where they allow very little, or no, I should say, acutely hazardous waste. So the issue came up with respect to one particular pharmaceutical, and that was epinephrine. Epinephrine is regarded as a P-listed material substance, and therefore, in its raw state, if you like, is regarded as an acutely hazardous material. And that was what was giving me grief for the last few weeks, that's saying, if that's acutely hazardous, then we've got to go for small scale. But then when I got to understand that all of the other veterinary things are very small scale, I got some extra advice in that. Suffice it to say that epinephrine is likely used in every one of the other veterinary clinics. It would be almost professionally negligent of them if were they not to use it. But provided it's in a form of what they call a saline form, the EPA issued a memorandum back in October of 2007 stating that if it's in that saline solution form, it does not therefore have the P042 listing under those conditions, and therefore is not acutely hazardous, which explains if you like, the fact that the other veterinary clinics that would use it are still listed as very small scale. So that's the current opinion that I've gotten on the thing, and I have I think given that to Christine and therefore to you guys. Hopefully within the next 24 hours, I will be getting a professional report to solidify that opinion and present that, so the clinic will be classified hopefully as a very small quantity generator.
Thanks, Jerry. Oh, yes. One of the other issues that came up was the dog relief area and the urine in that area. And I believe Warren is here to maybe provide a little more information as to that that concern. Warren is the architect for the Red Barn Animal Hospital.
I don't know. Can I just speak for a moment? Warren, I know, is in Florida, but on a business trip. But he said he would join us between 7 and 8 today. I don't see him here.
Oh, okay.
So he
has his hand raised. Oh, he just did.
Okay.
It just went away. Oh, there it is.
Okay.
There he is. So Warren, you're muted. If you turn off your mute button, you should be able to speak. You're still muted.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I'm actually at Logan Airport and it is noisy here, but can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, yep.
Okay, I apologize for the background noise. But I would like to speak on this issue of the dog area. Basically, this is not a boarding facility, so there is not a tremendous number of dogs who will be here and having to go out to eliminate. 90% of the dogs that come here are coming in for an appointment, and they're in and out within about half an hour. Occasionally, some dogs will stay for a procedure, and again, that might only be for a few hours. And occasionally, if they're there for surgery and they might be overnight, that might be the only time that dogs will be taken out to eliminate. So the bottom line to all this is that the amount of elimination is going to be absolutely minimal. And when it does happen, it might be half a cup full. That's about it. And when it rains, whatever little tiny bit of urine might be there is going to be completely dissipated. And so that's really the bottom line to the whole elimination area. It's really going to be completely negligible.
All right. Thank you very much.
That's about it from our end. There are one or two issues with Beta's letter that one in particular regarding the hydrology analysis that hopefully maybe Phil, I can call you tomorrow because I still have a few questions regarding that. But that seemed to be one of the only outstanding issues is the hydrology analysis and the designation of the soil type underneath the site.
Agreed. Okay, thank you very much. So at this point, I think just to bring in Phil so we can hear his comments. I know that he sent a report in acknowledging all the issues that were addressed. Phil, maybe you can speak to some of the ones that you feel have not been addressed, if any.
Yeah, I think it boils down to just two. I think There were many comments from the Conservation Commission trying to make that turnout area at the end of the parking lot as small as possible. And I think if you just make it parallel with the ends of the paint as opposed to the parallel with the top of the bank, just make it
Okay,
like
sure.
perpendicular and just to, again, make it
No
as,
problem.
I think that'll allow cars to get out, but also keep some of the buffer zone free pavement.
Okay, I can square that off, not a problem.
Yeah. And I think we have to iron out the difference in the hydraulic rating, hydrologic soil rating for the site.
Yeah,
Would make
if
us
I could
see-
call you tomorrow, maybe, because I just,
Yeah.
yeah, okay, that would be great.
Okay. And that's it, right, Phil?
Yep.
Any comments? Okay. So at this point, we'll turn it over to board members who may have any questions or concerns for the applicant or questions for Phil from Beta. Yes, Josh.
Hey everyone, so thanks for that clarification around the hazardous waste generation. Again, it was a reflection on the hazardous waste inventory that you guys provided that actually clumped P and U listed waste together. And there was a number of other ones that were included in that, although I haven't gone through to validate all the assessments. I'll take your word for it for right now that all of them are U and not P listed. But I think another thing that I had brought up last time was what kind of generator was going to be included on site. There was some sort of ambiguity around whether that was going to be natural gas or diesel. Can anybody provide any additional?
It's natural gas. I'm sorry, I did label the plan natural gas.
Yeah, I saw it highlighted, but I couldn't read anything. Great. And I did stop by somewhat recently and actually sort of validated what you said about those rusted out water tanks, which was quite surprising to me. I actually haven't seen a water tank do that. But I also did note that there was at least one item of asbestos or likely asbestos containing sewer line that was disposed in there, as well as an oil sheen across most of that waterway. Had you guys seen that before? And if so, what type of sort of remediation or sort of contingency? I mean, I think the best path forward would really be to have a licensed site professional on site for the activities going on there.
Yes, we could definitely have an LSP come out and look at it. Sometimes oil sheen isn't really oil sheen. It's organics that leach out into the water. So I don't know if it's oil or if it's some sort of organic matter. You know, I've seen it, you know, from the wetlands I've looked at. But again, we can definitely have an LSP go out there and take a look at it.
Yeah.
They're working with Jerry right now for the hazardous materials list. So
yeah, just to that point though, I mean, we can't make assumptions that it is not oil. I mean,
no, they can
looks
probably
like
take
a
a
duck, quacks
sample.
like a duck.
Yeah,
That's not a duck.
if they see the sheen, they can collect a water sample and have it analyzed. So
Yeah, I mean, the Mass DEP requires like certain time frames of that too. So as the applicant, I would suggest going out there on their sooner side so that you don't run afoul of that. I actually did contact Nora about that to relay that information to you as well. So I would definitely take a look at that as soon as possible.
okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you. Is it any more, Josh? You good? Okay. Ellen.
Thank you. Yeah, I would echo that. If there's some question about what that substance could be, I know I personally would feel better if it were looked at by an LSP and tested, just to be sure. I think that's the responsible thing to do from my perspective. I was really thrilled on the revised plan to see that instead of cutting down every tree, it looks like there's only, I did a quick count. It was kind of hard to read what was X's, but if I read it correctly, it looks like about 16 total are being cut down.
Yeah, around 18, 19, and 5, we hope to transplant. We're not sure. The crab apples that were planted when this site was originally redeveloped, 10 years ago, they planted the crab apples out front. But yeah, we're gonna save all the trees to the right of the facility to the most extent practicable, as long as, they're healthy and can be saved.
I am pleased to see that. That's far less arbitrary than everything's blighted and needs to go. So I
Yeah.
appreciate you taking the time to do that assessment and commit to that course of action.
Sure, no problem.
I like seeing the snow storage move. My question was, I know you said like you moved it as far away as you could, but I guess this is more of a question maybe for conservation or Nora. Is there a specific distance in the bylaws from the wetlands that it has to be, or is it as long as it's not right next to it? I just want to make sure that they've made the effort to move it and make sure if there is a specific distance, if the new plan is compliant.
The Conservation Commission can review the snow storage and determine where it can go. They would need to grant specific approval if it's within 35 feet of the wetland.
Okay, so there is
Anything
some.
outside of 35 feet is acceptable, but if it's even for anything within 100 feet, they have jurisdiction to review. So
Okay, so that
we'll
will be
defer to
reviewed.
them. Yeah.
Okay, that will be reviewed as part of their Eastern Rosebud. I appreciate that that's pollinator friendly, and I'm not a tree expert. This is probably also a conservation thing, but my understanding about those is they don't do particularly well in areas that are, wetlands. They like moist soil, but not necessarily super wet soil. So I don't know. I would prefer an evergreen, but that's just a personal preference. But Eastern Rosebud's a beautiful tree. But again, I'm curious what conservation will say on that. And the only other comment I had was about the elimination area. I appreciate what Mr. Friedenfeld, I hope I said that correctly, his point about it's not a boarding facility. That being said, I have a dog and I take my dog to the vet a lot, and the dogs, before they come in, when they come out, they use the elimination area. So while it still may be minimal, I don't know that I agree that it's only going to be a half cup once a day or whatever, like that there's not going to be that many dogs staying there for long periods of time. That's probably true, but I think we may be, the volume of elimination, even just from dogs coming and going from appointments, may be a little bit more than that. I don't know if it's enough to cause a problem, but I don't know that I agree that it's going to be the level of minimal that was expressed. And otherwise, thank you for putting the time into making all those revisions. And I definitely appreciated seeing the work you put in and the changes you made, and that you really heard us. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And if I can try to look into it a little more, maybe there's a certain soil profile we can install under the elimination area that will provide more filtration. So we can look into it a little more.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
No problem.
All right, thank you. Kate.
Thank you. Thank you, Chris. I very much, as others have said, appreciate the time that you've spent making these revisions. I'm embarrassed to say that I neglected to mention that I would like to see, if possible, a bike rack on the property. I initially didn't mention it because who's going to ride their bike to take their pet to the vet? But later I thought, oh, maybe the employees might like to ride their bikes to work. And we are trying to encourage green initiatives whenever we can. So that's my only embarrassing additional request.
No problem.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Sure.
All right, thank you, Kate. Any other comments or questions from board members for the applicant or for Phil and Beta? I'm not hearing or seeing anyone, so I think all of my questions were answered from Josh and Ellen, so I appreciate that. Nora, where does that leave us tonight?
So I just had one other comment I wanted to make. The crabapple trees that you're trying to save, I think it's great you're trying to save them, but I don't think they work as street trees. So if I could just show the board what they look like now. Does everyone see my screen? There are 5 crabapple trees here. They're lovely trees, but they really have branches far too low to be placed up along the street, either on High Street or on the drive. So I would encourage that they find another place for them and maybe look at some more appropriate street trees. I think one of the street trees you're proposing to add is a little leaf linden. That's a terrific tree for that location, and maybe something else along those lines. I know we need them to be native species, and the Conservation Commission might have more to say about specifically what trees they'd like. But if you could relocate those crab trees somewhere other than street trees, that would be great.
Sure, no problem.
So if board members don't have any other comments, if you want to open it up to the public, take some comments from the public, and then I'll have a draft motion for you to consider continuing this to April 11th.
Okay, with that, we'll open it to comments from the public. And I see anybody have their hand raised. As attendees, I see Rodney Grace.
Yeah, so I asked Rodney to type in his address. Anyone who would like to make a comment, same thing, please type in your address so the board can consider your comment.
Looks like he has lowered his hand. And the next name I see up there with a hand raise, oh, no, the hand is raised again for Rodney Grace since he was up there all along. I'll give him the opportunity if he offers his address. Anything coming in, Nora?
Here he is, 46 Pond Street. So Rodney, you can now speak.
No, my comment is about Bibi's, just about
Oh,
the parking. I'm sorry.
Okay, we'll get back to you then when we get
Thank
to
you.
that application.
Sorry
Thank
about
you.
that.
the next is someone referring to themselves as Upcar.
I think we have some, let me just see. Yes, we have some inappropriate messages from Upcar, and he or she is being removed from the meeting.
Okay. All right, it's been a while since we've had that, but I see that Mr. Dundon has his hand raised. Did you have something to add, sir? You're muted.
Unmute. I would just like to ask a question with respect to the trees. Is it, in your mind, important that the trees are saved and potentially moved to and transplanted to another site, or that they be transplanted and as many of them saved on this site?
So I think preferably save them on the site if you can. I think they're actually about 20 years old. They've been there for quite a while, so moving them may be difficult.
Okay.
They're beautiful trees. So if they're somewhere on the site, you can keep them. That'd be great. I just don't think they should be street trees. And if you're not able to save them on the site, then try to relocate them somewhere else in town.
Okay.
Okay. I don't see any other.
I see one other, Fran Fusco, 20
I saw
Pine
that.
Lane.
I was hand raised was what I was looking at. So I was going to move
Okay.
on to Q&A. Fran Fusco, 20 Pine Lane, types the question, since Kate brought up having bike racks, has the planning board mandated solar where it is new construction?
We are proposing solar panels on the building.
But those are not mandated. The planning board's proposed zoning changes come into effect after this application was submitted. So they don't apply to this application, but the applicant has voluntarily proposed solar.
Okay. I don't see any other hands raised or
Nope,
questions.
I don't either. So if the board is ready to make a motion to continue, I can display that motion.
So the board, we basically have the opportunity to weigh in on this tonight. And if someone is inclined, they may make the motion and see if it carries. And if not, we would consider continuing it to our next hearing.
Chris, isn't there still there's an outstanding issue, so it seems like a continuation needs to be occurring?
That would be up to the board.
Okay,
The motion doesn't to vote on this. We can make a motion to continue, and if that passes, then it's continued. Or we can go the other way and make a motion to approve, I guess. So if someone would like what's up in front of us is a motion to continue. If there's any board member who'd like to make that motion, then we take a vote to see if the board agrees with that course of action.
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, Kate. Just for clarification for the applicant, what are we asking currently of them to modify and come back with?
We have to get you a new opinion letter, excuse me, regarding the very small generator status of the facility. And there was one issue outstanding from Beta's review regarding the hydrology analysis of the site that I am going to speak with Phil just to finally put it, resolve that issue. So I will be giving Phil a call this week.
Yeah.
In addition,
Could you summarize that, Christine, just for us, so we could evaluate whether it's appropriate to continue or to consider it tonight?
Basically what it is we've excavated several test pits on the site, and it shows that there is fill material down to basically the water table, but the Soil Conservation Service designates the soil under the site what's called a Merrimack urban land, and it's just a question of my definition of Merrimack urban and Beta's definition. Merrimack urban is comprised of both of an A-type soil, which is a well-draining soil, and it's also comprised of urban soil. And that's just where I'm having a little problem, because an urban soil is more of a poorly draining soil, and that's what we're calling this site. It's just all about the hydrology analysis and the runoff analysis. It's just about the numbers regarding the stormwater runoff. Sorry if I didn't explain it right, but it's just
No, thanks, Christine. But I also just wanted to make sure that any of the other board members got out their questions or their requests, and so that you're not coming back again.
Oh, okay.
But I appreciate you summarizing for everybody.
No problem.
No, I think each board member has had ample time to ask questions of this applicant, and I think it's understood this would be our kind of last opportunity to do that.
Yep.
All right, so if someone would like to read that motion, we can consider that.
I move that the planning board continue the public hearing for flexible multiple use overlay district FMUOD special permit application for the proposed Obed Baker House mixed use redevelopment at 909 High Street to Tuesday, April 11th, 2023 at 7 p.m. in the Champagne Meeting Room located at 50 Garby Street, Westwood, Mass, unless the governor or state legislature extend the suspension of certain provisions of the open meeting law MGL Chapter 30A, subpart 18, allowing for remote meeting participation beyond the current expiration date of March 30th, 2023, in which case this public hearing will instead be held remotely via Zoom, and the town website will be updated to include an updated meeting agenda, and Zoom information will be provided on town's calendar on the homepage at https://www.townhall.westwood.ma.us/.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the continuance of this hearing?
If I just want for clarification, if we're continuing it, Chris, then we are waiting, I guess, the ultimate determination is going to be subject to what Christine or whatever the outstanding issues are. Otherwise, we could go forward tonight.
Correct. And so it's up to the board as a group to decide, do we want to continue and wait the opportunity for the applicant to supply the answers to those issues? Or is the board prepared to render a decision tonight?
I mean, from my sense, I think we should be ready to move forward tonight, but if there's other concerns, I'm open to them.
Okay, we're in further discussion about the continuation. Any other board members with comments or questions? We do have a motion and a second.
Personally, given that the outstanding items, including my question about the elimination area, and I'd be interested in seeing some alternate soil options because they're involving the water. I would prefer to get those pieces of information back before we make a decision, just in case, because the water resource portion of this is, for me, one of the highest priority items. But that's just my opinion.
I'm okay with that if that's the sense.
Yeah, I'm expecting that we'll have everything that we need to move forward next time.
Okay, as I said earlier, we do have a motion and a second to continue this hearing till our April 11th meeting. So hearing no more discussion, we'll take a roll call vote on the motion to continue. Kate?
Aye.
Ellen?
Aye.
Josh?
Aye.
Phil?
Aye.
And I vote aye also. So this hearing is continued to that meeting.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Your next application is for 436 Washington Street. And I will bring over the applicant, Peter Zalka, and his consultant. As well as your peer review consultant, Tom Houston. Peter, I
Good
have
evening.
you. I see Jack Gillian. Is there anyone else that's here
Jack
for your
Gillen is,
application?
do you see Bob Rigo?
Brigo, yes, I'll bring him over.
Okay. And just so everybody is aware, sitting next to me is the applicant.
Good evening, everyone.
All right, so Peter, if you want to go through the changes to your application since the hearing on March 7th, and then we have Tom Houston here, our peer review consultant, who can also give his response to the changes in your plan.
Yeah, good evening. For the record, I'm Peter Zucker, attorney in Dedham. As they say, with me is the applicant, Stephen David. So we had responded last week, I believe it was, to Mr. Houston's peer review report. And then this morning, we had a Zoom meeting with Mr. Houston and Nora to go over and actually have agreed to a number of other changes, which we hope will satisfy the board this evening. I'm not sure if Bob has a plan to bring up, but to me, one of the central issues, putting aside the stormwater for a second, the central issue had been turning around. And we had actually gone so far where we had revised both sides of the parking lots. If you remember, there's a building in the middle with, I think it's 9 parking spaces on each side. We had revised both sides to try to provide turnaround, but after reviewing it further, we have revised the parking lot, which everybody else says north and south. I'm going to say left and right. So the parking lot to the left, which is on the Dunkin' Donuts side, the board may recall there was a dumpster area in the back, and a suggestion from the board and from Mr. Houston was that we push the dumpster back further, which would allow an area where delivery vehicles could pull in and have an opportunity to turn around. So we had done that, and so I believe that was a change. We actually went back and restored the right side. We tried to do some changes to the right side, on the right side of that. And if I could, I don't know if Bob has the plan, but as I'm talking, maybe easier. Bob, can you hear me?
I can, yes. Can you hear me?
Yes. Are you
Okay,
able
great.
to share your screen?
Yeah, I can share my screen. Okay, there's the revised layout.
Okay.
After modifications for one side of.
Okay, so now
Canton.
looking at this, I've been calling it, we're now gonna call it the right side, because that's the way I'm looking at the plan. So on the right side, you can see where we push the dumpster area back, which now provides an opportunity for a vehicle to come in there, could stay for a couple of minutes if it had to, and then have the ability, better than it did before, to back out of that area. So that's one thing we did. We also, I think at the suggestion of Mr. Houston, the 2 spaces that are in the lower right-hand corner that you see on the plan are going to be signed just simply with the word reserve, in the hopes that for most of the time those spaces will remain empty or will be the last ones that are filled, to again provide even a further opportunity, hopefully if they're empty, for that turnaround. The other spaces that you see on that side will be signed resident only, as we had talked about. One of the things that was suggested, 5 of those will be resident only. One thing that had come up was try to put the signs more on the property than inside, more inside the property, so that we don't clutter the street with a bunch of signs. However, there will be a sign put up indicating that all deliveries will be made to what I'm now calling the right side parking lot. As I indicated, we had made an attempt to reconfigure what is now shown on the left side parking lot. It really didn't work, and it ended up intruding into the landscape area to the left of that, the community space, which, by the way, we have incorporated in, and shown on this plan, is the bench. And in addition to that, we will be putting a solar-powered lantern in that area, again, as had been suggested by the board the last time. One of the, and I'll probably let Bob more talk about the stormwater if he'd like to, but one of the things which I think is big discussion we had last time is about the pavement itself. The applicant has now agreed that the pavement will be, that the parking lot will be repaved, thus providing the opportunity, if needed, to grade things appropriately. Most of the other items, I believe, have been resolved. A lot of them that Mr. Houston raised were to make sure that we added certain notations on the plan. I believe that we have done so in terms of almost every item. I don't know any that we said no to. So those will be, if they have not already, all been incorporated into the plan. We provided some details that were requested through the peer reviewer. And I'm trying to think of any, I'm just trying to do the highlights of the big stuff. And yeah, Bob, can you talk about the stormwater? Because I know that was the other big.
Absolutely. So just as a basis, I'm going to go to the existing conditions plan. The property right now, it has a catch basin located in the northwestern corner of the property. That runoff from the building and the parking lot goes directly into that catch basin. There's a pipe that discharges out to the drainage system in Washington Street. There's basically a river that's culverted through the site in this general location. A pipe runs down here and then goes out and exits out the rear. There's a catch basin, which again collects storm water from the paved area of the site, which is this whole area, and the building, and that goes again without treatment into the pipe and then out and into that stream. So what we're proposing is to install, basically replace this existing catch basin with a hydrodynamic separator, a model, a Storm Scepter ST450i, they call it, which is a hydrodynamic separator. It spins the water around basically. And then it again will discharge into the city or the town municipal stormwater system in Washington Street. That'll at least give it treatment prior to discharge. And if anything ever were to spill over here any hydrocarbons or anything. There's oil and water separation capabilities also that the existing catch basin does not have. Again, we're proposing a similar treatment to this catch basin over here. We'd install a hydrodynamic separator offline. And then right here, we'd cover over this existing catch basin, install another catch basin with a hydrodynamic separator prior to its discharge to the existing piping. The stormwater from the roof of the building would all be collected, and it would be directed over to dry well in this area of the site. That would provide infiltration. Currently, there is no infiltration. So we'd be increasing that. Most of the small day-to-day storms less than a year, 1 year in frequency, would all be discharged over to this general area into the dry well. There'd be an overflow then back into the drainage system, which goes off site. So those are the basic idea about the stormwater improvements. And I guess I'll switch back to you, Peter.
Yes, thank you. So just again, to a couple of other matters that come up or recommendations, many of which, in fact, all of which made perfect sense. So we've now installed or proposing to install on the property bollards in a couple of locations. One would be along the common property line with the Dunkin' Donuts to again separate and protect each site from the other. And in addition to that, in front of near the lobby area to protect the pedestrians in that area as well. Yeah, we've has been, let's see, just looking at my list here, I apologize. The other, yeah, I'm just trying to highlight, I apologize about soundproofing. We've agreed to soundproof not just the back of the building, but to incorporate soundproofing on all sides of the building to help the residents be able to sleep at night. And I believe that is the general highlight. So we believe we've brought ourselves into compliance with 99.9% of Mr. Houston's recommendations, as well as the comments that we heard directly from the planning board at the last meeting.
Okay, thank you very much. Josh, I see you have your hand raised. Do you want to wait to hear from Mr. Houston, or did you want to ask your question right now?
I was just asking a quick question, more so about the layout. So on this slide right here, it shows that there's a paver walkway along that back side, but I thought there was a small bump out that actually I think is even on the next slide if you go over or down, I should say.
Yeah, I think part of the up here, that's going to be removed.
Okay, that was my only question. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. With that, I'll give Mr. Houston an opportunity to speak to any concerns he still has outstanding in response to the applicant's responses.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There's been very substantial progress made here, and we tried to sort of gel the key issues down into what we termed the executive summary in our report that was issued late today. The first sort of family of issues relates to the whole turnaround and parking lot configuration. I think we are pleased with the changes that have been made. The site is compact enough that the turns and everything aren't ideal, but I think what has been developed does at least provide for a turnaround for both passenger vehicles and trucks, which is very important given the busy nature of Washington Street next to the site. We're also very pleased to see that the parking area pavement is going to be replaced because it would have been significantly impacted by utility installations. And also there were some areas that didn't drain properly. So with the new pavement, it'll certainly look nicer, but also it will function much better than trying to overlay the existing pavement. In terms of the stormwater management system, one thing that was mentioned at our meeting this morning was to have the stormwater system comply with Westwood's stormwater management regulations, even if the area of disturbance is less than 5,000 square feet. So they're pretty much there. The responses that were given were structured as if they did not have to comply. And maybe that language could be cleaned up. But I think principally they're complying with many of them. The two issues maybe that aren't fully resolved. The Westwood standards require phosphorus abatement, and they require that any TMDLs be addressed. And in this case, Purgatory Brook does have a TMDL for bacteria. So it may be that the CDS units, the special catch basins that are being installed, they may have phosphorus and bacteria abatement capabilities, although I doubt it. So we're looking to see if there's anything they can do to address those two requirements. I guess finally I'd mention that we had concerns about the design of the infiltration facility due to the lack of a test pit, and they hadn't done a test pit in that location because they didn't have permission from the current owner to do so. So what we discussed this morning, and it seems reasonable to me, is to defer that test pit until just prior to construction. And the applicant acknowledges that if the soils aren't as permeable as the current design would indicate, they are willing to increase the size of that infiltration facility if required. So I think all in all, we're in a good place. There are some minor adjustments that have to be done, but I think in terms of the principal items, we're on the right track.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Houston. Nora, any comments from staff that you'd like to share with us?
So you have the comments from the staff in your packet. Give me a second, I will bring those up.
Does whoever's sharing the screen have to relinquish?
Yes,
control?
I think you do. If you could stop sharing, thank you. All right, can you see my screen?
Yes.
A little larger. So the first comment is from the Dedham Westwood Water District. They've asked that you.
That's the wrong.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm in the wrong, sorry. Just a minute.
Is it Friday?
It's been a long week. Hold on, let me open up the other one. Okay, can you see that?
Yes.
All right, so the first comment was from the Conservation Commission regarding the 5,000 square foot limit that requires a review by the stormwater bylaw. We believe that the amount of disturbance is under 5,000 square feet, but as Tom discussed, we're asking for compliance with the same requirements in the stormwater bylaw either way. an actual review and approval by the conservation agent will not be necessary if it's under 5,000 square feet. Then the next comment is from the Dedham Westwood Water District, who asked that you contact Matt Lannon to write up service application, discuss water service lines, access fee, change of use fees. That can be done after approval prior to building permit. Fire department, no comments. We'll wait for review input. The police department says we foresee no public safety impact from the proposed renovations. The traffic study indicates a low volume of vehicles entering and exiting the property with minimal impact on existing traffic volumes and patterns. Health department has no comments. Now the building department has several comments. So the first comment from our building commissioner is the project will require waivers from section 6.1.20.1 parking setback requirements less than 5 feet and 6.1.19.1 landscape design requirements. Because this project is developed under the FMUOD section of the zoning bylaw, the board does not have to specifically waive those requirements. It simply has to approve the parking lot as designed and note that it's not in full conformance with the section 6.1 requirements for the design of parking lots. Joe mentions there's no requirement listed in section 6.1 for parking requirements for more than a 2-family. However, 1 and 2 families are required to provide 2 spaces per unit. The applicant is proposing 1 space per unit. I think that was discussed both in the pre-application stage and in the last hearing session that 1 parking space per unit for 1-bedroom apartments that are in walking distance to a train station is appropriate. Next comment is there is no requirement for any unit to be affordable. However, the original proposal at a land use committee meeting, the applicant stated that all residential units would be affordable. The description of the project on page SP 1.1 lists 0 affordable units. So I think the project description said that all 5 units would be affordable units, and I think that's what we're expecting out of this project. Joe Doyle also says, I disagree with note 2 about note 2, page SP 1.1. It is a disclaimer concerning ADA compliant ramps and sidewalks. The building department does not enforce ADA requirements. However, on-site requirements for accessibility are under 521 CMR, the Architectural Access Board. The site plan indicates there will be ramps and warning strips on the town-owned sidewalks in front of the project. I would assume that your notes refer to on-site design only and not the public way. So this was on a previous version of the plan. The previous version had the new driveways cutting through the sidewalks. That's no longer the case. The sidewalks are going to be preserved in place, and the driveway will approach the sidewalk. So the sidewalk road grade will not be depressed in the current plan, so there's no need for those tactile, accessible marking features in the pavement. So that is it. I believe all of those comments have been addressed.
All right. Thank you, Nora. So at this time, we've heard from the applicant, the peer review consultant, and Nora read to us comments from staff throughout the town. So we'll open it up to planning board members for comments or questions or concerns for the applicant. Ellen, I see your hand up.
Yeah, quick question. I know that there's been a lot of revisions and whatnot in the last week or so. What was the date on the plan that you put up on screen today?
The date of that plan is today, 3/21.
So
That's kind of what I thought.
Right, that
Yeah.
plan has not yet officially been submitted.
No.
So that plan we discussed, Tom Houston and I met with Stephen David and Peter Zucker this morning, and the goal was to try and get a plan so they could show you tonight what they have in mind, but that plan still does need to be submitted for full review.
Okay. I was curious about that because it's hard for me to formulate questions on that plan when I've only seen it on a very tiny screen and haven't had a chance to really review it. So with that being said, I'm sure I'll have more questions. I don't think I'd be comfortable making a decision on this project tonight based on the fact that I haven't had ample time to really review what you're planning to submit. My only other 2 questions are, I know I had asked last time about 2 things. One, considering putting solar panels on that solar ready roof. I wasn't sure if you'd given that any thought. And I know we talked a few times about a parking contingency plan, just in case you find yourself with an overflow situation. And I was curious where you were with that.
I'm not as familiar with solar as you seem to be. I mean, obviously, it would be solar ready where regulations change. I haven't got my electrical plan yet, so I can't share that with you. But I should have it shortly. But I hadn't planned on doing solar. As far as the parking management plan, I understand that one should be drafted. We're in the process of doing that. Tom made some excellent suggestions to us about what should be in that plan. We're going to adopt his suggestions and, finalize the plan. I was hopeful that that could be something that could be done after approval prior to occupancy. So that's how I believe we left that with Nora. I could be mistaken.
All right, Ellen, any follow-up response?
I think, I don't know, since I'd be interested in seeing at least a draft of that management plan prior to approval, because I think that's been a concern for, residents and board members. So it's not necessarily for me, like I need to have it finalized, but I think I would like to see at least a draft about what you have in mind prior to approval, just for myself. As for the solar, yeah, I'm appreciative that it's going to be solar ready, but I think, as I said at the last meeting, solar ready doesn't actually start generating, clean energy. So if there's any way you could entertain maybe throwing some panels on that solar ready roof, I think that would be it's something I'd be interested in seeing if it's something you could make work. I know our bylaws haven't changed yet, but if they did, I think this development would probably fall under that. So I would be interested in seeing some consideration given to actually putting panels on the roof to offset the footprint.
Well, the building is all electric. There's no gas, propane, oil, any fossil fuels being used in the construction or operation of the building once it's completed. That was a choice I made, to just up the environment.
Oh, I appreciate that. And I like that, but one, the power plants generating the electricity are still using fossil fuels for the most part, but because the building's going to be all electric, that's why I thought it was a prime candidate to put panels on the roof, because then it would be, a net cost benefit for you as well. But just something I was interested in seeing if it was something you could make work.
I'll see with my electrical engineer and we'll have a more formal response.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
All right, thank you. Kate.
Thank you. So I'm just it's such a great plan, right? I really love this project. I was very happy to see is it balustrades? Is that the right word? Protecting the pedestrians. I was very happy to see those added to the plan. I am curious to two things. One, I don't remember where the bike racks are on the plan. And then to just highlight Ellen's point about actually putting solar panels on the building. It's a beautiful building. I think it's almost a statement building. And if we saw solar panels on a solar ready roof, I feel like that would be really great. But if you can make that work, that would be great. But I'd love to know where the bike racks are.
They're also located directly in front of the building. Are they on that? They're on the plan. Would you like Bob to bring up the plan again?
If you don't mind. Perfect. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Phil.
Yes, hi. I just wanted to say that I like your turnaround solution to this site. That was something that I was thinking and focusing on last time. And I'm going to echo the others. I am very happy about this whole project and the plan and the parking. Can you just, there was not a follow-up, but I also saw some of the comments. I'm glad that you're saying reserved with respect to those 2 spaces that were to the bottom right of the plan, and the 5 spaces resident only. I didn't see where the 5 spaces resident only were going to be. And then secondly, do you have a sense as to how that may be something that will enhance the parking situation? Just a little bit more explanation on that. And then I just have a couple other questions, but I'm going to echo Kate also on the last comments. I'm very, very happy and eager about this project. I think it's a great project.
Share my screen and go over the site. So as discussed, the project's located has frontage along Jennings Street. North Street is on the northerly side and Mill Street is on the southerly side of the site. There's 2 basically parking areas that.
I think he's on another meeting at the same time.
Yes.
I was just going to say, am I confused or is there something in my?
He was confusing us, so we were getting.
So Bob's been muted.
He's
Good.
So maybe Peter and Stephen, can you address that?
So the idea was to sign the reserve spaces to make sure that they were available for the residents for their parking. So we were signing 5 of those. Now, it doesn't mean at some point it may not go to 6, depends upon once we see what the tenant mix is. So we want to make sure there's sufficient parking for the tenant vehicles. And I know somebody else asked a question about the parking management plan, and that would be in there. There's a lot of control because Mr. David will be not only owning the building, he'll be on site. But we can do a lot of control through lease in terms of the number of vehicles people can have, et cetera. So the intent was that the parking lot closest to the CVS side, closest to the Dunkin' Donuts side, would be the area that would be primarily for the parking of the residential tenants. The opposite side, of course, would be for the businesses which are being planned. I mean, one's going to be Mr. David's office. The other one will, he wants something compatible to that, which means it's going to be another office type use to help for a lot of reasons. Go ahead.
Comment from one of the members early on that about a tenant pulling in and not having a place to park and then having to pull back out again and come back and find it. So for that reason, we picked up on that comment and designated those 5 spaces. So each tenant will have a space, know where to go when they come home from work, from shopping, whatever. The plan, my ultimate plan is these are 1-bedroom units. I'm probably going to have a restriction as to vehicles. We got a bike rack out front. Commerce is right up the street. Trains nearby. So, more than 1 vehicle, isn't going to work for me. So that would be something that I am going to add to the parking plan relative to, leasing restrictions as it relates to vehicles. So that's one of the ways that I can control that. And we believe that it solves the other problems mentioned by the members.
As part of your, and just getting a sense, as part of your thoughts on a parking plan, are you going to assign or not assign spaces, parking spaces? Thinking of that.
To the tenants, we will assign. To the other businesses, we probably won't.
Okay. Then I'm hearing that you're inching, but close, but not yet to complying with the bylaws on stormwater. Tell me where your sense on the stormwater, where you're at, and what is, are you going to commit to the Westwood standards, or are we not committing?
So we're basically committing. One of the things that we haven't addressed to Tom's satisfaction was the treatment of phosphorus materials or bacteria that could possibly come off the site through stormwater. honestly, we had this meeting this morning. My engineer did his best he could, but we weren't able to see if those storm scepters actually have the ability to treat those materials. So we're looking into that, and we'll direct our response to Tom, and hopefully that's to his satisfaction at that point.
Especially because I was sensitive to Tom's comments. If you can get that, agreement, and you can get that understanding, especially given the nature of the site and whatnot, you'll get more eagerness, at least for me. I just would love to see that. So otherwise, I like your changes. I like where this project is going. Very, very happy to see what you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Josh.
Hey, first off, thanks for adding that light over by the benches. I thought that was a great addition. Question about the external building materials. I didn't see in the beta report or described anywhere if the external building materials have been tested for PCBs. From my understanding, the building was constructed circa 1960s.
Well, it's concrete block building. There's no siding. It's painted.
How about
I don't know. Say again?
Around the windows is a pretty commonplace. But
Yeah,
again,
we're taking all the windows are coming out and will be taken out of the property. The window locations are actually, some of them match, some of them don't. So that material will be evaluated, and I use Affordable Environmental, which is a environmental contractor that comes in and takes care of those issues.
awesome. So they'll be testing for PCBs, and then the window caulking and stuff and everything is going to be removed.
Exactly.
Okay. And obviously just Mass State Code asbestos is going to be tested for. I'm assuming it's someplace in the building and will be remediated, but that's under the building code. So not too worried about that. I guess sort of trying to look between Tom's comment, at least on the phosphorus issue. Tom, would it be acceptable for an O&M plan, because the majority of phosphorus is going to come from fertilizer, correct? Or potentially from fertilizer. Would that be an acceptable sort of mid-step for the applicant and what you see as a potential risk?
Yeah, certainly abating phosphorus through the use of non-phosphorus fertilizers is certainly a step in the right direction. What the bylaw says is you're supposed to recharge 0.8 of an inch of runoff from the impervious surfaces, and that would take care of the phosphorus. However, if that can't be done, it may be possible to get a water quality unit that will abate phosphorus somewhat. I don't know, because I haven't yet seen the spec on the CDS unit that they're proposing, whether that abates phosphorus. Most do not. Conventionally, the way to abate phosphorus is to recharge.
Yep.
And we don't know right now the recharge capabilities of the site. But the same thing with bacteria. The Purgatory Brook has a TMDL. It has an impaired status with respect to bacteria. So if there's something that be done to abate that, that would bring it into compliance or closer to compliance with the town stormwater management regulations.
Great. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Peter, I don't know if you could bring up the plan. I just wanted to talk the parking one last time. If you just bring up the spot that has the slide that has
Bob, can you bring that up?
Bob have that?
Yes.
Is he back with us? Maybe not.
Maybe it isn't.
All right. Well, we can, I guess, talk it through. That the spots closest to the Dunkin' Donuts, how many do those count? Not including the handicap?
Where's your handicap?
What's the count? Wasn't there a handicap? Do I remember that, the first one in? That's why I was kind of hoping to bring this up, but I understand.
So I can show you the
Oh, you.
prior
yeah.
set of plans, but I can't show you the one that Bob has tonight. Do
With
you want to
the-
look at the prior set?
This is,
Has the count changed?
I don't believe it has. There are a total of 18
we're on mute.
spaces shown on the plan.
Mr. Chairman,
I'm sorry, I'm not sure who just called for me.
it's Stephen David.
Hello.
So the handicap spot is on the north side next to the Dunkin' Donuts, the second space in.
The second space in. Okay, so how many spaces are reserved, not including the handicap? Not reserved, how many are over there on that side?
10.
10?
Yes,
And your 5 will have reserved for residents,
that's correct.
and 2 will say just reserved?
Correct.
I believe there are 9 spaces. 9 parking spaces, 5 will be signed for residents and 2 will be marked as reserved.
Nor is correct.
Okay, so that leaves 2 remaining for the commercial on that side?
Yes.
Or residents, I guess, whoever happens to get there first. And how many on the left side, the other side?
Also 9. Was there 10?
Oh, I'm sorry, 9. Yes, you're right. 9 on each side.
9 on each side. And those presumably are for all of the commercial use. Right?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. David, how big is the firm you're proposing to move in here? How many people?
So I have 4 people,
4 people, including yourself?
including myself. Yeah.
Okay. So the presumption there is you would need 4 spots for your firm.
Yes,
Okay. And we're looking for a similar size company to move in there. Right?
that's all I'm going to accept. That's correct.
Okay, so, that's what I hadn't heard that described. So I just wanted a general overview. So we have the 9 spots there, in theory, should handle all the commercial, but we still have 2 more spots on the other side that are not reserved for residents or just the reserve sign itself. Right?
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, it's interesting. So my use, which is a law firm, pre-pandemic, you had a lot of traffic coming into the firm during the course of a day. Now, most of the traffic is via technology, either Zoom, telephone,
Sure.
so it's really changed. But I mean, I'm just giving you my experience. I don't want to, I've gotten some interest in the building, and I've turned most of it away because it's not the type of use that we've discussed at these meetings, and that I don't want a use that's going to create a parking problem, because it creates a parking problem. It's creating a problem for me, and it is a tight parking spot, which we would all agree. However, I believe with the limited uses, the size of the apartments being 1 bedrooms, that it's going to work nicely with the appropriate parking. That's the goal.
All right, thank you. I'm encouraged just with this overview count to have 11 spaces not be reserved for residents or just reserved in general, and still 7 reserved or having some reservation sign on it to some extent. So I hadn't heard that kind of crystallized to the size with regard to the parking. So I'm happy to hear that. Thank you for offering that. And I would also like to echo the sentiments of at least a few of the planning board members. This project, I think, will go a long way towards a first step in getting rid of what is down there and just tightly packed. And I'm encouraged by what we've been able to do here, working together to come up with a really solid plan. So I appreciate your patience in working with us. I think we still might have a few more things a few more I's to dot. But I'm really encouraged hearing from my fellow board members, and I think we're in a really good place right now.
So, Mr. Chairman, I got to go on the record. It was your idea to remove that little appendage at the rear of the building to create so after that evening, I went back and told my engineer it worked out quite well. So yeah, I got to give credit where credit's due.
So as long as the usual plaque is put right there, that's fine.
I echoed it, so I want a citation.
A dual plaque, dual side, okay. So anyway, any thoughts come to board members' minds, for an opportunity to ask a question or voice a concern?
Yeah, actually, Chris, I remembered something I forgot to ask. If we could get any of the plans, because I think the item I have a question about is on all of them. So if someone can just project one of the plans, I'd be grateful.
Can you see that?
Oh, yes, thank you.
Okay. Great.
Okay, it's not on this page. It's the plan showing the proposed drainage and the existing
Sure.
drainage. Thanks.
Right there.
So there's that pipe that's coming in from where it says Mass Bay Transportation Authority, and then it kind of comes onto this property, and then there's like a little section that says unknown site. Do we know what the volume and what the source of what's coming in through there is?
Yes. Well, I'm not sure about the volume, but I believe there's a, and I don't know the name of the stream, so I apologize, but on the northerly side of Washington Street, there's a stream which comes into a culvert, and it gets culverted underneath the site, and it goes in this direction towards the Massachusetts Bay easement under the train tracks and discharges, about a half mile away from the site.
So that pipe, it's not part of the stormwater runoff. It's that pipe that's coming in that then connects to the drainage system on site is Purgatory Brook or whatever. Is that one?
Yeah. Yes, that's correct. Yep.
Okay. That's a surprise, but thank you. I was curious what was going on in that pipe. I thought it was just part of like stormwater runoff, maybe from an adjacent site. Does that have any impact on what you guys are doing as far as, your proposals for improving the drainage or coming into compliance with the Westwood stormwater bylaws, or is that really not a concern?
It's not essentially a concern, but we are gonna, obviously we're gonna maintain this flow. This is a pretty large pipe. It's a 24-inch pipe. And then we are gonna continue the discharge into that from our site. But it doesn't, we're going to improve the water quality prior to the discharge, and it sounds like we will be improving it even more than what's shown here tonight to deal with phosphorus and bacteria removal also.
No, that's great, because if that really is a direct line into the brook, that's to me even more important that we're doing what we can to to maintain the integrity of that water and clean it up as best we can. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, any other board members with last second thoughts or comments? All right, I'm not seeing or hearing any. This is a public hearing, so I guess now would be the appropriate time to offer opportunity to the public to ask a question. Give just a minute or two for someone to type in a question or raise their hand.
I don't see anything.
No, neither do I. Okay, Nora, what are our options at this point?
So your options are either to grant an approval with conditions that address all of the things that were discussed tonight, or to continue the hearing until April 11th, allow for the submission of those materials to address the concerns, and then have a motion to approve on April 11th.
Can you, Nora, calm my fears? We've already had 2 hearings pushed till April 11th. How is that meeting looking?
So far, I only have one item on the agenda for April 11th, and it's a modification to a previously issued wireless communication facility approval. So it's a very light meeting. I do expect that you'll continue your zoning hearing to that night after meeting with the FinCom on March 28th, but that continuation would simply be to then recommend the finalized articles to town meeting. So that would also be a fairly short item. So you'd have those two items and then the continuation of the Obed Baker House application. And then if you continue this one, that would be your fourth agenda item.
Okay. All right, so we have before us kind of a fork in the road. Do we want to continue or vote to approve with conditions? And I guess
Sorry, if I may, Chris, my inclination is just to continue because the conditions would be so numerous. But I
At
do
least
just want to
30.
make sure. Yeah, so I do just want to make sure that this gives the applicant sufficient time to come to us with everything that we need on April 11th, so that April 11th is our last meeting, would be my hope.
well, I think we have to be done, right, Nora, by April 11th. Because after that, there's opportunity for member change to the board.
So I don't believe there is. I don't think there's any candidate challenge
Oh, there
this
is.
year.
Huh.
If I'm correct, I believe that the
We're gonna
board
stay-
membership will
Nevertheless,
remain the
It
same.
looks like I might be still around for a little while, or at
Yeah.
least have a possibility.
So we don't have that restriction, but
Okay.
there is an interest in getting this
I
done as
didn't want to
quickly
bring
as
up a
possible.
sensitive subject, but
No, it's not sensitive.
That's usually what we have to be concerned with this time of year, but not this year. But there is still an interest in getting this approved as quickly as possible
Oh,
so that
absolutely.
the applicant can
Yeah,
finalize the purchase of the property.
yeah,
Yep.
I echo Kate. I think let's get it wrapped on the next one. Let's continue, but let's get the whole shebang done.
Yeah, that will give us sufficient time to get everything in well in advance of that meeting, so everybody has an opportunity to review. We don't think there is. It sounds like a longer list than I think it really is. I think it's just buttoning up a few of the items, but we'll get that in as soon as possible.
Right. It would only be a long list if you were to approve tonight with conditions, because all of the conditions are necessary to repeat items that are in the peer review memo, which will be addressed by April 11th. So
Okay.
it'll be a shorter approval then.
that being said, do you have draft? Thank you. Draft language.
so
Any-
I move that the planning board continue the public hearing for the flexible multiple use overlay district FMUOD special permit application for the proposed mixed use redevelopment at 436 Washington Street to Tuesday, April 11th, 2023 at 7 p.m. in the Champagne Meeting Room located at 50 Carby Street, Westwood, Mass, unless the governor or state legislature extend the suspension of certain provisions of the open meeting law MGM Chapter 30A, Section 18, allowing for remote meeting participation beyond the current expiration date of March 30th, 2023, in which case this public hearing will instead be held remotely via Zoom, and the town website will be updated to include an updated meeting agenda, and Zoom information will be provided on town's calendar on the homepage at https://www.townhall.westwood.ma.us/.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing and hearing none, we'll take a roll call vote. Ellen,
Aye.
Josh,
Aye.
Kate,
Aye.
Phil,
Aye.
I vote aye. Thank you very much. Look forward
Thank
to
you.
Thank you for all your feedback. Thank you.
11th.
Thank you, Mr. Dees.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good night, Mr. David.
Okay, so now the
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. The next item on your agenda is consideration of a. Let's see if I have this consideration of the EIDR approval for outdoor seating at Bibi's restaurant. I believe that's the next item on the agenda.
I think you're right. 1 Church Street.
1 Church Street, right? All right, so let me bring over the applicant. I don't think she has any consultants with her. Fatima, you have to accept the promotion to panelist. And then you'll be able to speak and be seen.
Hello, everybody.
Hello. All right.
There
would
is
you
no
like to
picture here. That's fine. All right.
explain your proposal to the board?
Yes, I would like to have outdoor seating to become permanent. And I have 2 tables, and each table has 2 chairs, like 2 tables and 4 chairs outside. One of the employees' parking, we have been using it for last almost 3 years when pandemic started. And I blocked that parking with 300-pound plant, as Mr. Doyle recommended when he came and he looked at the spot. And it's perfectly safe. All the customers loves that little corner. And I would like that to become a permanent outdoor seating.
Okay. Thank you. Nora, do you have anything to add?
So I can just show you on my screen. This is the plan that was approved by the planning board several years ago. And if you see right where my cursor is, space number 7, that was approved for an employee only parking space. And then I can show you. This is a sketch of what has been in place for the last almost 3 years. That parking space has been replaced with 2 tables. So the request is to continue that. This was allowed by under pandemic provisions by the select board. They were able to just grant discretionary approval for outdoor seating, whether or not it was in a parking space. So the select board did review this. The building commissioner reviewed it. The public safety departments reviewed it. The health department reviewed it back in 2020 and allowed this to be outdoor seating during the pandemic. The provisions that apply to that expire on April 1st. So in order for Bibi's Café to maintain this outdoor seating, they would need to follow the normal procedures, which requires a approval by the planning board under the zoning bylaw. Now, because in this case, it's in a parking space, it would also require the planning board to grant a special permit allowing for the reduction of parking to 6 spaces. Go back to the plan here, which shows the 6 spaces that are in the parking lot. Those would be the spaces that you would be granting a special permit to say that those spaces are all that are needed. Sorry, there's one back here too. So 5 along the side and 1 in the back. Those would be the spaces that were sufficient to address the needs of the business. There are also on-street parking spaces on Church Street. Those are unrestricted spaces, and those are available for customers and employees of the business. So I did speak to the building commissioner, and he confirmed that there were no outstanding problems with parking related to this business. I also made it a point to visit on various days and various times of the day, and in no case did I see all of the parking spaces on the lot full. And that's with conditions with these tables in place for the last 2.5, almost 3 years. So I don't see any concerns with parking, and I would recommend that the board favorably consider the special permit request. I'd also point out that in the event that there is a problem somewhere down the line, the solution is simple. It's just to remove the tables. So there's no physical change to the parking space that would need to be made other than removing the tables and the planters that now protect people sitting at that table, at those 2 tables.
All right, thank you. Any comments or questions the board has for Nora or the applicant?
I just have a comment, which is I'm a frequent customer. I'm very comfortable with keeping the situation in the parking lot as it is. I've never seen the lot full with me not able to find a space.
I would echo Kate. I go by there very, very often. I've never seen any issue.
Nora, did you say the tables have been out there for 3 years, even in the winter?
No, I believe they're taken in the winter and then put out seasonally.
And the spots you mentioned on Church Street, are they striped sufficiently?
There are striped spaces on Church Street, yes.
No restriction that they be for a resident or anything? It's open.
No
to-
restrictions, no. In order to restrict those, the select board as road commissioners would need to impose traffic regulations on those spaces. It has not been requested that they do so, and they have not. If there is a concern that people have with parking in those spaces, they can bring that to the select board. But as of now, those are just public parking spaces, as all parking spaces on streets in Westwood are open to anyone who chooses to use them.
All right, thank you. Kate, you have your hand up again?
Yeah, I think I could be mistaken, and perhaps the business owner would want to say, but while the tables come in, I think that very heavy plant stays.
Yes, that is the case. So during the winter, the space was not put back into use. So while the tables weren't there in the winter, the space has not been used for parking since, I think, June of 2020. And
Yes.
it has not been missed.
All right. Any other comments from board members before we take this to public comment? Okay, I'm not hearing or seeing any, so we'll go to the patient, Rodney Grace.
Yeah, so Rodney has typed some comments into
Saw
the
that.
chat feature. So Rodney Grace of 46 Pond Street. The first comment is, my concern is allow a business to use Church Street as a commercial parking lot for its business. And then another comment, is the planning board aware that Linguine's Cupcakes was operating out of 1 Church Street starting on June 14th, 2015? And then a third comment from Rodney Grace, where are the customers going to park?
Well, okay, these questions are for me.
No,
So they're for the board.
therefore, yeah, I think, yeah, he's addressed the board, all these questions to the board. So he has a concern that Church Street would be used as a commercial parking lot. Nor I think you spoke to those spots are for anyone in Westwood, right? On Church Street? Whether
Yeah, and anyone can park there. There's another business right next door to this that does not have significant parking, and cars often park for that business. I have seen cars park there and go across to Dunkin' Donuts as well. There's no prohibition on that. Those spaces are not marked to limit the use.
I think we've sufficiently addressed that concern. The second was about a cupcake company. I don't know. I honestly don't know the exact relevance of that to this.
So Bibi's Café has the cafe on the first floor, and it has a bakery upstairs. I believe, Fatna, if you could explain, there's
Yes. Yes, Nora, thank you. 2015, there was a baker that he rented my kitchen for almost less than 3 months, and he was licensed, and he got permission from town to use my kitchen at after hours. After we closed the bakery, he would come in and he bakes his cupcakes for a couple of hours, and he leave before 3 in the morning. And his business didn't last more than 3 months, and he just left. But he was permitted, and he was licensed.
That was licensed as a commercial kitchen, and he had a food permit from the health department to use that commercial.
And he was never open to the public? He just
No, he never was. He was selling his cupcakes somewhere else in downtown Boston.
Okay.
He was just using our kitchen for a couple of hours.
And it did not provide a parking issue.
No.
So then the last question is, where are the customers going to park? I'm sorry, then there's another question that Rodney has also typed in. His trunk, I believe he means his truck, was parked on Church Street.
The guy that he used the kitchen?
Yeah, I think that's who he's referring to, yes.
He never had a truck. He had a scooter.
All right. But he's no longer there anymore, right?
No. This was in 2015 for less than 3 months. But
this
you
is-
know, I'm so surprised that where that truck word comes from. The guy, yeah. Okay, I'm sorry.
This occurred 8 years ago, and
Yes.
it's not happened since.
No.
No. His last question that were relevant here: where are customers going to park? They do have 6 spots in the parking lot, right? Nor one of them is handicapped.
That's true. And so since this application was received, so approximately 3 weeks ago, I've made multiple trips just to check on the parking, and have never once at any time of day or evening seen all 6 spaces filled.
All
Now,
right.
that's not to say that there wasn't some time when I wasn't there, because I work. I'm not always driving to Bibi's, but I have not seen any instance, and none has been reported to the building commissioner. There's a provision in the bylaw that says that if parking ever becomes a problem, and that parking customers or employees are parking illegally on residential streets, the building commissioner can take action to alleviate the parking problem. So if that were to occur here, and it was determined that customers or employees from Bibi's had no room in their lot, and were maybe there's no room on Church Street either, and then we're parking illegally in other areas of the town, infringing upon residential properties, then the building commissioner could alert the planning board, and the planning board could withdraw the special permit and require the tables to be removed. But that has not happened to date.
So Mr. Grace has typed another addition, and he says, I disagree that there is not a parking issue. Nora, the parking issue would have to be identified and accepted as an issue by Joe Doyle.
That's right. So if Mr. Grace finds that there are more than that, all of the 6 spaces in the parking in the Bibi's lot are filled, and all of the spaces on Church Street are filled, and parking is spilling over into other neighborhoods, all related to Bibi's, then he can make that claim to Joe Doyle. Building commissioner can go out and inspect, and if he finds that that's the case, then he can come back to the board to request that the special permit be revoked.
But his earlier comments seem to be speaking to that he deemed it a problem that Church Street was receiving parking for the customers to Bibi's. He seemed that was a problem, and you've explained to us that that is not a legal problem.
Right. The problem is only if people park in non-legal parking spaces. So where there's a parking space on a public street that's unrestricted, people can park there. That's not a problem.
I just wanted to make sure that Mr. Grace felt he was heard, and that this board has to be concerned with the legality of the parking, and that the Church Street parking is legal parking for Bibi's customers.
So now Mr. Grace has typed in another one. The building commissioner told me in front of the zoning board that he could not enforce parking because he couldn't tell whose car they were. Well, I think what the building commissioner would investigate where people were going from those cars, and if they were related to Bibi's. If there were people parking illegally and Bibi's parking lot was not full, then the presumption would not be that those people were parking for Bibi's. But the parking, on-street parking is reviewed by the police department. If there's illegal parking, reported to the police department. On-site parking and overflow of on-site parking is regulated by the building commission.
Okay. Thank you. And at the end of the day, we're talking about a one parking space,
which has been
that has not
used
been
for tables for almost 3 years now.
And it hasn't even been used as a parking space because of the planters.
Right.
So it's not even getting plowed in the winter and certainly not being parked in.
Right. Since June of 2020, that parking space has not been available for cars.
Okay. Okay. Any other comments or questions from board members for the applicant or for Nora for clarification? I see Mr. Grace's hand is still up. I don't know if he has further questions. He did type another, what is the intent of the bylaw?
Well, can I just ask you, I'm just concerned because I live in the neighborhood, and my neighbors, we got together, and when the zoning board with the other business that you mentioned, we went to the zoning board, and they about the other business there, that they were saying, complained about the parking and complained to the Commissioner Doyle. He said he couldn't enforce it because he couldn't tell whose cars they were. The zoning board said that when they issued for the other business, they specifically said no on-street parking. Now, what I'm hearing now from the building here, your building is you're saying that yes, Church Street, you're allowing businesses to use the parking because there is no restriction about parking there. The only restriction is what's in the bylaws about, and this is what you're trying to change here with this special permit. They're not adhering. They didn't adhere to the bylaw. They didn't adhere to you before by allowing Linguini's Cupcakes to operate there, and it wasn't a few months. I've got pictures of which I can show the board of the cars being parked on the street with the emblem, this van that says Linguini's Cupcakes. That's the only reason I know. When I went to the state and I said, well, who is this Linguini's Cupcakes? They said, well, it's incorporated at 1 Church Street. Neither I or my neighbors ever heard about this. It didn't come before the zoning board. It didn't come before the building commission here. So
it did not need to. Let me just point that out. This building has a commercial kitchen on the 2nd floor. And the only thing needed to use that commercial kitchen is a food service permit from the Board of Health. That is not something that comes to the planning board. That is not something that goes to the zoning board of appeals. That is an allowed use in a commercial zone.
So in the cases, they can have as many employees as they want there, operating this business outside of Bibi's Bakery. They can do whatever you're telling me there, and they can use the street, which is open to parking, and they should be open to parking because a lot of people use it for the memorial, and high school students use it. And
what I'm saying is, unless
I know there's no restriction, I agree with you.
Unless the select board restricts those parking spaces, anyone can use it. As far as use of the bakery, that requires a food permit. And the Board of Health can review to make sure there's sufficient parking before issuing a permit to a baker to use that space.
I'm only concerned, I'm not only concerned about the number of employees and customers. And that's not my only concern. And this goes outside the bylaws. Otherwise, they wouldn't need a permit. And you're allowing this business to go outside the bylaws because you said, hey, you got street parking there, which is a residential street. And there's no restriction about the parking. I don't know how this doesn't increase to every business in town, what on-street parking. I just don't know. I'm just confused. I don't know why this seems like this area is just spot zoning where we're going to allow this area so that the commercial, this business use that as a parking lot. There's no, it doesn't adhere to any of the, I don't know, you know better than I do, but it doesn't adhere to any of these safety rules about parking that I read in the bylaws. It doesn't adhere to, we all know about the amount of accidents that happen between Pond and Church. I don't know if it's more than any other area, but I certainly see them outside my street as I look down Church Street. So I don't know. It just seems like that nobody is looking at what this affects. We all like the bakery. We all like bakeries. We like businesses. But by increasing the size and going beyond the bylaws by special permit, there are a reason why you have these bylaws. It's to protect the residents. And, by doing this.
So the zoning bylaw requires parking based on the size of a facility and the number of employees. And the planning board has determined when Bibi's first came to apply, the board determined that the size of the facility plus the number of employees, plus the fact that they had a retail takeout counter resulted in a demand of 7 spaces, and 7 spaces were created. Since that time, the business has been there for several years, and now the business has been working out of 6 parking spaces for almost 3 years, and there has not been any parking concern that would lead the board to believe that 7 spaces are still needed. So the request by the applicant is to reduce the parking need for this particular business from 7 spaces to 6 spaces in order to allow continuation of those 2 tables outside.
All I'm saying is that as one of the residents that live there, and maybe we should, maybe we should just ask the residents, has the people who live there, has this affected the area? I understand you visit it and you go when you go there and you see, oh, it doesn't affect the area. But as a resident and my neighbors who I talk to, it affects us. That's all I'm saying. If find out if it affects the neighborhood when they increase parking space. This could be 1 space now, but if this increases the business, it's more effect. It affects it more. And then also, as you mentioned, the other businesses there, it just mushrooms. So I would hope the planning board would consider at least input from the residents in the area before they increase the permit there of what they're doing. Not just somebody who might go in there occasionally and say this. When I go around town, it doesn't affect me if Starbucks parks cars on the street. It doesn't affect me if Kiara puts cars on the street. It doesn't affect me at all. I see no problem with that. I like going there. But does it affect the neighbors? That's all. The neighborhood. And if the planning board has the, not just me, but if the planning board has people who live there on Church Street or close to this, if they feel it hasn't affected them, fine. But to talk about the building commissioner, he told, and this is a part of a public record, he said at the zoning board, he could not enforce the parking restrictions for business there because it is a street that's open to parking, which is good because, like I said, so many people use it. But to allow businesses to use it as commercial parking lot seems contrary to what was intended in the buying law from what I see. But what do I know?
So as the board knows, this is an advertised public hearing. Notice has gone out to all abutters within 300 feet of the project, as well as printed in the local newspaper and posted on the website.
Okay.
So Mr. Grace has concerns and he's brought them to the board. I don't believe any of his neighbors are here tonight. If any are, they'd like to speak, they're welcome to. And as far as the parking spaces, if there's any concern with having those parking spaces restricted, that concern should be brought to the select board, who can have a traffic study and determine whether or not they wish to restrict those spaces.
Well, at least I know now from this meeting that when I talk to the neighbors and we talk about this, I can tell them that the planning board says, no, businesses are allowed to use Church Street as for the commercial parking. And, I don't know, as far as the other bylaws concerned about commercial parking lots, about crosswalks and lighting and so forth and safety, that is not an issue because I didn't think it was an issue because I didn't think the zoning planning board was allowing for commercial parking. But now if the planning board on record is saying, well, we allow for commercial parking, then those become an issue.
Excuse me, the planning board doesn't allow or disallow on-street parking. That's regulated by the select board. It has nothing to do with the planning board.
Okay.
The planning board regulates businesses parking on their premises. This hearing is to decide whether or not Bibi's can get by with 6 spaces instead of 7, as it has done since June of 2020.
Okay. Understand. Thank you for the information. This gives me something to go forward with, to talk with our neighbors about this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any board members wish to speak on this matter or have some concerns, comments, or questions? Right. I think I see everyone is still muted, so I'll take that as no.
I just want to, I do just want to say, Nora, I really appreciate you reminding us about the procedure to notify abutters and surrounding area. That was really helpful.
Thank you. So one other item I'd like to mention on this is that the applicant has requested a fee waiver. So that's another item the board needs to discuss. For a site plan review, there's a minimum fee of $500 for site plan changes. And technically that's what this is. So there's not a heavy review load that's needed for this, but it is technically a site plan change that takes a parking space and makes it a seating area. So in order to proceed with the application, we did have to obtain a $500 fee from the applicant. The applicant would like to ask the board to waive all or part of that fee, and that's something that the board can consider and decide whether or not that's something you'd be interested in doing.
Nora, are you able to speak to how much staff time was required in preparation for this?
Other than posting the legal notice, there was no staff time involved because this is a continuation of something that was done in June 2020. So there's nothing new. There was no new inspection that's needed. My time going out to check on the parking demand is just something I do. I do that at businesses throughout town, so I wouldn't add that to this application, but no significant cost to the town.
Were there mailings done?
There were mailings done to all of the abutters. Yes, those are regular mail. So I have to check the abutters list. There could have been as many as 25 abutters at 50 cents a piece, or 56. I don't even know what postage costs these days. So there is some cost to the town. The advertisement is paid for by the applicant, so there was no cost for that.
Kate, you have your hand up?
Yeah, thank you. Regarding the fee, at the time that the space was first converted, was the appropriate process followed at that time?
It was, and that process was with the select board only, and there was no fee involved. It was offered to all businesses throughout town that wanted outdoor display or seating, trying to help businesses get through the pandemic. There was no charge at that time.
So it seems to me that this board should, is there a fee even if the board doesn't approve?
Yes,
That-
an application
okay.
fee is paid regardless of the decision that's made.
Okay. So the applicant has requested 100% fee waiver.
I'll let the applicant speak to that.
If that's possible, I would love that. You know, it's a small business, and this inflation is, really hitting everyone, and every single dollars will help. And that's the reason, I am requesting for a waive the fee.
I would support it. I think this is the type of small business that we want to support a fee waiver.
Thank you.
Nora, would it seem appropriate to do this before or after the board weighs in on the parking issue?
I think I would take two separate motions, one for the fee
Right.
waiver and one for the application itself then.
Right, I understand that too, but the order of
Oh,
those
the order?
doesn't matter to you?
It doesn't make any difference to me.
Okay. I appreciate the business's position. Inflation does affect everyone. It does affect the town as well. It seems to me that it's a decent ask by the owner, and I would be in favor, and I don't want to appear hard, but the cost to the town was incurred to some extent. I would look to something like $75 or $100 of the 500 of the EIDR. We did go through this. Nora is right now, on the payroll talking about this right now. Jessica is here, taking minutes on these things. So we did send mailings out. I think a nominal fee would be appropriate instead of waiving everything.
What about 50, Chris? Would you take 50?
Sure. I think that would.
I was going to go with 50. So I
Oh.
make it just take a 0 off of it, right?
I agree with the Kate.
So if, however, the board would be inclined, if someone would like to make a motion about the waiver and maybe reword it to
Yep.
a different amount.
So I'm going to move that the planning board grant a partial fee waiver for the environmental impact and design review EIDR and special permit application for Bibi's Café, 1 Church Street, filed by Fatana Dawat Shahi and recorded in the office of the town clerk on March 6, 2023, to reduce the $500 application fee to $50 and require the payment of $50 application fee on or before April 1st, 2023.
I would second it.
We have a motion and a second on the partial fee waiver. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll take a roll call vote. Phil,
I vote aye.
Kate,
Aye.
Josh,
Aye.
Ellen,
Aye.
I vote aye also. Now to the matter of.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Nora, do you have draft language for us on the parking?
I do.
This is the same as what I have, correct, Nora?
Yes, it's what you
Okay.
have that I sent out beforehand. Yes.
Great. So I'm going to go ahead and move that the planning board grant environmental impact and design review EIDR approval and a section 6.1.9 special permit for reduction in the number of required parking spaces from 7 spaces to 6 spaces in order to permit continuation of outdoor seating at Bibi's, 1 Church Street, as described in the application, therefore submitted to the planning board and filed in the office of the town clerk on March 6, 2023, subject to the following conditions. 1, except as modified by the conditions and findings hereof, the project shall comply with the project plans and with the conditions of all prior approvals in all respects. 2, if the project or any condition imposed in this decision requires permit, license, or other approval from any other board, committee, or agency of the town of Westwood or other regulatory agency of the Commonwealth or the federal government, the applicant shall make an appropriate application for the same and shall obtain all required approvals prior to the start of any work. 3, any alterations, modifications, deletions, or changes to the EIDR approval shall be requested in writing to the town planner and building commissioner prior to implementation. Proposed alterations which are considered de minimis by the building commissioner may be accepted as a note to the file. Proposed alterations which are considered minor by the building commissioner pursuant to section 7.3 of the zoning bylaw shall be considered through the filing of an administrative EIDR application pursuant to section 7.3.6 of the zoning bylaw, or through the filing of an application of minor modification of EIDR approval for review by the planning board at a publicly posted planning board meeting. Proposed alterations which are determined to be major by the building commissioner or by the planning board shall be considered by the planning board as a formal amendment to the EIDR approval and will require a new public hearing before the planning board. 4, if at any time in the future the building commissioner finds that the ongoing business at 1 Church Street gives rise to a demand for more than 6 parking spaces, the outdoor tables shall be removed and a 7th parking space shall be reestablished on the property.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the issue of reducing the parking by 1 spot? Seeing and hearing none, we'll take a roll call vote. Kate,
Aye.
Josh,
Aye.
Ellen,
Aye.
Phil,
Aye.
I vote aye also.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good
very
luck.
much. Best
Well,
of luck.
thank you
you.
very much.
Best of
So-
luck.
I move that the planning board close the EIDR environmental impact and design review and special permit approval public hearing for 1 Church Street.
Second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion? Seeing none. Josh,
Aye.
Ellen,
Aye.
Kate,
Aye.
Phil,
Aye.
I vote aye.
Thank you.
Hearing is closed.
Now, your next application is for a public hearing for earth material movement environmental impact design review approval for 403 Gay Street.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Let me bring over the applicant.
Nora, who's the applicant or who's speaking on behalf of the applicant?
I believe it's Jeff Murphy.
I see Zach has a hand raised. And I'm not.
Jeff, is there anyone with you or are you solo?
I'm expecting it'll just be me this evening. Regan Andriola, who's the project manager, may also be on, but I believe that she's just going to let me present.
Okay, go right ahead.
Sure. So good evening, members of the board. My name is Jeff Murphy. I'm a project civil engineer with Beals and Thomas here on behalf of the applicants. Give me a second here. I'll share my screen. Let's see. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm here on behalf of the applicant, and just want to start out by saying that in conjunction with the Earth Material Movement EIDR application that we submitted, we've also submitted a land disturbance permit with the Conservation Commission, which is under review as well by Beta Engineering, and we have revised the plans as of March 14th. And we received Beta's latest comment letter this afternoon, which does reference those plans. So those are the plans that I'll be sharing this evening with the board. So the project is located at 403 Gay Street, which is Assessor's lot map 22, lot 14. Located between Thatcher Street and Milk Street on the south side of Gay Street, roughly across from Sandy Valley Road. The existing parcel is a currently undeveloped parcel, about 3.91 acres in size. Proposed single family house on that parcel. The proposed house is going to be situated in the central portion of the lot. And the driveway is going to be located generally at the northeasterly portion of the lot. Based on the existing grades of the site, as well as the existing groundwater elevations, which are generally high on the existing lot, it necessitated raising the grades up by several feet within the house footprint area, and then to create kind of a centralized mound around the house, as well as the installation of various stormwater management facilities, which include a rain garden in the front yard area that will receive runoff from the driveway of the house. And then we have two subsurface chamber infiltration systems that are located to receive roof runoff from the house to infiltrate that. And then we have a detention basin that would take runoff from the back portion of the property before discharging that. And the proposed application is to import approximately 2,200 cubic yards of material in order to accomplish the proposed grading for the lot. And of that, approximately 1,765 cubic yards would be general fill and topsoil for to build up the house pad, as well as the off-grading areas for the yard. As then there would be approximately 285 cubic yards of gravel base that would be used underneath the the proposed driveway, as well as the underneath the slab for the house, as well as the footings. And then we have about 170 cubic yards of crushed stone that would be needed to import in order to construct the subsurface infiltration systems, which are chambers which have crushed stone. They're bedded in crushed stone. And then we also have some crushed stone that is going to be a part of the rain garden base. So those are the basic highlights of the proposal. So I guess, is there any questions that the board has at this time?
Nora, anything to add from staff?
No, I don't believe so. This, other than to let you know that this is before the Conservation Commission. They will be reviewing it at their meeting tomorrow night. So this is, earth material movement on Gay Street. There's really only one way to get to the property by Gay Street. There are no side streets that we have to be concerned with. We have written other decisions for earth material movement on Gay Street where we just restricted the vehicles to approach Gay Street from either High Street or Washington Street without traveling on any non-arterial roads. I have draft conditions that are the typical conditions requiring protection of the street and sidewalk, hours of operation, the same things you're usually used to, but there's nothing of particular significance here. You do have a review by Beta that was in your packet. They reviewed this on behalf of the Department of Public Works, and they reviewed the draft conditions and are in agreement with what I've proposed.
All right, thank you. Board members, questions, comments, concerns? Ellen.
Just for my own curiosity, is this a project, like, is this going to be put up for sale, or is the person who currently owns the property, are they going to retain this property?
I believe it's gonna stay in the family, but I'm not entirely sure who, whether it's gonna retain the, by the current owner.
I was just curious. Editorially, I really love a lot of what I see in the plans, like with the rain gardens and use of plantings and kind of natural features to control runoff. I really like that. I think I like to see more of that in plans like this. So I really appreciate that is part of this plan.
Thank you.
All right, any other comments from board members or questions for the applicant or for Nora?
I can also let you know that this application was before the Zoning Board of Appeals within the last 2 weeks. I can't remember if it was last week or the week before now, but they had to apply to the Zoning Board of Appeals for an accessory apartment, and that was granted. So now they're applying to the Conservation Commission for a notice of intent and to the Planning Board for earth material movement.
Okay, don't hear any more questions or concerns from board members. So you have language for us to read?
I do. Just 1 second.
In the meantime, while you're looking that up, the question in the Q&A was asking about an EIDR extension at 710 High Street.
Yes.
That was on an agenda, was it?
So So I'll get back to that after we review this, but there is the application for 710 High Street is on the posted meeting notice, and for some reason it's not displayed on the calendar page. So I'm not sure why that's the case, but let's dispense with this and then we'll get back to that item next. All right, so here is So here's what I'm proposing for draft motions. There would actually be 2 motions. The first would be to handle the waivers that are requested in this application. They're the standard waivers. I don't know why the numbers are doing that, but waiver of the exterior lighting plan that's otherwise required, waiver of the traffic study, and waiver of the presentation model.
I move that the planning board grant the following waivers in association with the application for earth material movement, environmental impact and design review, EMM-EIDR approval for the proposed site alterations at 403 Gay Street as described in the application therefore submitted to the planning board and filed in the office of the town clerk on February 22nd, 2023. Waiver of exterior lighting plan required pursuant to section 7.3.7.2 of the zoning bylaw. Waiver of the traffic study required pursuant to section 7.3.7.3 of the zoning bylaw, and waiver of the presentation model required pursuant to section 7.3.7.7 of the zoning bylaw.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the waivers? We'll take a roll call vote. Ellen.
Aye.
Kate.
Aye.
Josh.
Aye.
Phil.
Aye.
I vote aye also. The waivers are granted.
All right, and now you have a motion on the application itself.
I'll take this one. I move that the planning board grant the requested earth material movement, environmental impact and design review, EMM-EIDR approval for 403 Gay Street as described in the application, therefore submitted to the planning board and filed in the office of the town clerk on February 22nd, 2023, subject to the following conditions. 1, except as modified by the conditions and findings hereof, the project shall comply with the project plans in all respects, and the applicant shall pursue completion of the project with reasonable diligence and continuity. 2, if the project or any condition imposed in this decision requires permit, license, or other approval from any other board, committee, or agency of the town of Westwood or other regulatory agency of the Commonwealth or the federal government, the applicant shall make an appropriate application for the same and shall obtain all required approvals prior to the start of any work. 3, any alterations, modifications, deletions, or changes to the EMM-EIDR approval shall be requested in writing to the town planner and building commissioner prior to implementation. Proposed alterations which are considered de minimis by the building commissioner may be accepted as a note to the file. Proposed alterations which are considered minor by the building commissioner pursuant to section 7.3 of the zoning bylaw shall be considered through the filing of an administrative EMM-EIDR application pursuant to section 7.3.6 of the zoning bylaw or through the filing of an application of minor modification of EMM-EIDR approval for review by the planning board at a publicly posted planning board meeting. Proposed alterations which are determined to be major by the building commissioner or by the planning board shall be considered by the planning board as a formal amendment to the EMM-EIDR approval and will require a new public hearing before the planning board. 4, the existing pavement on Gay Street shall be protected from damage from loading and unloading of material and or equipment related to the proposed construction. 5, all trucks carrying earth material to or from 403 Gay Street shall be required to access Gay Street from eastbound or westbound High Street or from northbound or southbound Washington Street and shall proceed directly to the site. No trucks associated with the project shall be permitted to travel on any other non-arterial road in Westwood. Any trucks delivering, 6, any trucks delivering or removing materials shall be covered as to prevent said material from spilling onto the public roadway, and any spilled material shall be cleaned from Gay Street, High Street, Washington Street, and any other roadways traveled in the transport of earth material to and from the site. 7, there shall be no substandard or hazardous fill material used with this project. Prior to the import of any earth material, the applicant shall submit certification to the town planner and building commissioner from the company providing said material, stating that the material does not contain any hazardous material. 8, all project-related construction activities, including any ledge removal, tree removal, and all earth material movement shall comply with the timeframes set forth in the town's general bylaws, Chapter 292 for noise and construction, which allows such work Monday through Saturday between the hours of 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. and Sunday between the hours of 12 p.m. and 7 p.m. 9, the applicant shall promptly repair any damage which the applicant or its agents cause to sidewalks, street pavement, signs, or other fixtures or features within the public right-of-way after first obtaining permission from the Town Department of Public Works. Such repairs shall be performed to Town of Westwood standards. 10, a copy of this decision and the project plans shall be kept on the project site at all times throughout the period of construction. 11, this EMM-EIDR approval shall lapse if a substantial use thereof or construction thereunder has not begun, except for good cause within 2 years following the grant thereof. The planning board may extend such approval for good cause upon the written request of the applicant. In the case of this EMM-EIDR approval, the term, quote, substantial use thereof or construction thereunder, quote, shall mean the commencement and substantial continued progress of the approved activity.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Josh,
Aye.
Kate,
Aye.
Ellen,
Aye.
Phil,
Aye.
I vote aye also.
Okay, and then a motion to close the public hearing.
Anyone?
I move that the planning board close the earth material movement, environmental impact and design review, EMM-EIDR approval public hearing for 403 Gay Street.
Second.
Any further discussion? Take a roll call vote. Phil,
Aye.
Kate,
Aye.
Ellen,
Aye.
Josh,
Aye.
I vote aye.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Best of luck on your project.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good
All
night.
right, now getting back to the comment in the Q&A. We have a slight discrepancy in our agenda. So let me show you. This is the agenda that appears on the calendar. And you can see it's all the items that we've taken up. But this is the agenda that appears on the meeting notice that's posted to that calendar. And as you can see, there was an item that was added after the deadline for consideration of a request for a 1-year extension of environmental impact and design review approval for 722 High Street. This application comes from the Global Montello Group, and it affects mobile and on the run on High Street. So the original application was granted in April 26th of 2021, and that application is valid for 2 years. So the applicant submitted an application to request a modification. This is not a public hearing. This is just a matter to be continued by the board as an agenda item to consider granting a 1-year extension of that decision. So although there's a discrepancy in the agenda, I do believe it is properly posted because it's on the meeting notice. But this is what I'd recommend, just to make sure that everything is
I
all
actually
above board.
I actually had it in my, like, I get my minutes set up and I had it and I was going to mention it to you.
Ready to go. Yes. So what I would recommend is, since the applicant is here, you hear the request, you vote to consider that request. And if you choose to grant a 1-year extension, I'd like to put this on your next agenda as well on April 11th for a confirmatory vote, just to make sure that there's no concerns that anyone has that this wasn't properly enacted. So if I could bring over the applicant, you can discuss why it is that they're requesting a 1-year extension.
So Nora, does that mean we will not have discussion on April 11th? Just to confirm.
So if the board chooses to vote today, if you choose to vote and you vote in favor of the 1-year extension, there would be no need for further discussion, but the board could take up discussion if they wanted. What I'd recommend is that you simply confirm your vote. Whatever vote you have today, you confirm at another meeting so that it can be clearly shown on the calendar. I think anyone who looks at the agenda tonight, who pulls up the meeting notice, would see that it's there. But if they simply looked at the calendar, they wouldn't know that this item was to be considered. So the board can handle it either way. You do have time. So the application, the EIDR approval that was granted is valid through April 26th. So if the board did want to continue this and discuss the whole item on the 11th, you could do that, but the applicants are here tonight. So
I just want to make sure that any citizens that wanted to listen in or voice a concern had an opportunity to do that.
So what you could do is you could hear from the applicants tonight, and then we could repeat that, what they have to say on the 11th, if you'd rather wait to vote until the 11th.
That would be my preference. Because I didn't actually realize it myself. So,
So Nora, it was on the agenda. It wasn't on the calendar. Is that what
Right.
you-
Right, so so when you look at the town's calendar, there are attachments under it. Every hearing notice is attached and the official meeting notice is attached. So this is on the official meeting notice and the board's agenda for the meeting, but for some reason it's not printed in the list of items that are to be discussed on the calendar. So
So it's
there
been
is a discrepancy, and I think
advertised.
you need to address it at your next meeting, one way or the other.
Okay.
So if you want to hear from the applicant tonight, and then the board can take its vote at the next meeting if you choose to.
Do we need a head count by the board, or how do you suggest we proceed?
I think you as chair can decide how you want to handle that. If you want to ask board members how they feel, you can do that.
Well, I guess if this was properly noticed and advertised, anyone
It's
who,
not advertised because it's not a hearing, so there's no advertisement.
thank you, thanks for that distinction. But anyone would have gone through the normal procedure to find out what was going to be discussed, and this would have been on that. And they would presumably be here to listen in if they had an issue or had an interest in this, right?
They
They
would,
wouldn't-
unless they just took a cursory look at the town's calendar and didn't bother to read the attachments. So that's a possibility, that there might be somebody who has some interest in this that didn't see it because it wasn't prominently displayed on the calendar.
So I guess, given that possibility, I understand it might be inconvenient for the applicant, but I think we would be doing a disservice to our citizens possibly to not have them have an opportunity to listen in. And I guess that means we either listen in twice to what they have to say, or we ask to continue this till the next meeting. And I guess I would take a head count of what the board's sentiment is on this particular issue. What are you guys thinking?
I think we delay.
Do you want?
Postpone, I should say, postpone.
Okay, I guess the issue then, not issue, the question is, do we listen to them tonight and next time? Or do we just postpone the whole thing or continue the whole thing?
My preference would be just the next time.
Okay, any other board members with thoughts on how to proceed?
I would agree
Yeah.
with Kate.
As do I. I think, as I recall, there were some residents that were interested in this project when it was discussed last time. And I'm fairly certain there's some, the board composition is different than it was when this was approved 2 years ago. So I think it would be worthwhile to pay it a little more attention. It may be cut and dry, but it may not be. But I would also agree it makes sense to only hear it once. And give, maybe the same residents or different residents the opportunity to come and listen and speak if they feel the need.
Okay. So I guess I've already expressed my inclination to agree with that. So there's 4 members who have expressed that. And I'm not asking for 5. I think we have enough guidance there. I don't want to be rude to the applicant. I appreciate you coming out here. It's 9:30 on a Tuesday. But at the same time, I think we do owe it to the process to abide by our rules and procedures. So if you can hear me, I apologize, but I think we're going to take a motion to continue this to our April 11th.
So we'll put it as the first item at 7 o'clock on April 11th.
Absolutely. They deserve that.
Okay.
Okay, hopefully it'll be a quick discussion.
We were planning on it being a pretty quick one.
Okay.
Hope you understand our reasoning.
Yes, I do. Yep.
I understand.
Yep.
Thank
Good.
you.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
See
Right.
you next time.
Thank you. So with that, I'll take a motion to continue.
No need to continue.
No
It's not a
need- oh,
hearing.
it's not a hearing. I'm
Not a hearing.
in viewing
Just
mode.
an agenda item.
So,
No motion
Moving
needed.
it along. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
All
you
right,
very
the
much.
next-
Thank you,
Next item
guys.
on-
We'll see you in April.
Thank you. The
Bye.
next item on the agenda is actually the review of minutes, and I did not get those into the packet. I thought they were in there, but they weren't. So I apologize. Jessica got them to me in plenty of time. I'll put them in the packet for your meeting on April 11th.
I thought that menu was automatically approved. No? All right.
If you wish. They're always great minutes. Jessica does a great
No.
job.
They are phenomenal.
Yeah.
Nora, what are we hearing about meeting in person? I know we've been saying all night.
Yes, yes. So we have not, there's no confirmation. So there's a bill that's been approved by the representatives, and separate bill that's been approved by the state Senate. Both allow continuation of remote meetings until March 30th, 2025, but they're in conference committee, and it is unlikely that they will get through conference committee and get this to the governor for a signature before March 30th. So it's a question of when after that it gets approved. It sounds like there is definite interest in extending remote meetings, but whether they get it done by April 11th, there's no telling. I don't think there's much chance they'll be done by March 30th. So anyone who has meetings scheduled for the first half of April has to advertise them both ways, and hope for the best. And the Champaign meeting room is all set up for meetings if we need it. The Conservation Commission is meeting live for all their meetings there now. So
Did DPW clear out the back half of the room?
they did. It's all cleaned up and ready for you to come back.
Well, it's a good thing our Congress has not waited to the last minute.
So you didn't tell these guys that it's in person, and so they're not going to, be able to do it by Zoom just now.
They'll maybe
They'll
In
show up.
person, and I'm still hopeful.
They were
that
on all night. I think they heard us say when the meetings were going to be.
Yeah.
and I'm still hopeful that we'll get remote privileges to continue. So we'll see.
We'll find out.
Hey, you have your hand up.
Yes, sorry. It's an unrelated item, but I did swing by the police station this morning, and I think there's still 2 items there that I'm not the last one to sign. So I just want to throw that out.
Okay, thank you. And anyone who hasn't signed the A&Rs, please
I'm
make it a
going
point to
by.
stop by.
How
I'll be going by
diplomatic,
tonight.
Kate.
What?
I said, how diplomatic, Kate.
Mhm.
I
So
wasn't
sorry.
the last to sign. Hopefully. Josh,
Kate
what do
was
you?
the first to sign.
Yes, Josh.
I just said you were the first to sign. But
Oh.
about the actually remote meetings, is there an appetite to meet in person at all? I know it's fairly hard for me. I usually get home at 6:30, and I know Phil usually just takes it from the office. So
I'm at the office now. I'm hoping to catch a
yeah.
train.
I'm just wondering, I mean, if in the future they do extend it, do people want to meet in person or hybrid of sorts? I don't know what that looks like, how it is. So just curious.
Well, we've never had a hybrid. It's either been all this or in person. So I think hybrid would take a little time to sort out, maybe
Yeah.
not.
So our concern with hybrid is we're just not really set up for it very well. So we do some internal meetings that we do hybrid, and it can be very difficult to hear people when you're in person, and then some people are on our remote. So we just don't have the setup we need for hybrid right now. So I think it's all or nothing.
Okay.
I know that we've heard from several residents who prefer the remote meeting because they can attend without getting a babysitter or from their offices. So I think this is working well, and I would hope to continue it as long as we can. And maybe we get to the point where we do find a way to have hybrid meetings, but there's definitely some benefit to some people for the remote meetings.
For sure.
I do, I guess, want to take this opportunity, having been on the board prior to COVID and now 3 years in, the first year, it was not good. It wasn't, and it got better as we went along. But now 2 years after that first year, this is a more than adequate format to get the work done that we need to get done. That being said, I do know, having the ability to compare in person versus this, there is something that's lost, and I can't really even put my finger on it, but there's a nuance to in-person meetings that is lost in this, and some people appreciate that loss. Some people are a little more reticent to voice things in a room full of 30 people as a planning member or even a resident, where here they're very free with their typing and very happy to do that, with some anonymity. That's up to you. Whatever's lost, it's up to you to decide if that's a positive or a negative. But I do see that there are some things that are lost in going fully remote like this. But I think all in all, we've worked on it, and now it's. When I say more than adequate, that doesn't sound like it's praise. It is. I think we've done a very good job coming up with something that works to allow us to get our work done.
So even if remote provisions are continued, the board always has a choice. So there could be a particular item that comes up on your agenda that you feel would benefit from an in-person meeting, and the board is free to schedule an in-person meeting.
One thing, Nora, I don't know if we haven't had, maybe it's COVID related, maybe it's not. We've had no site visits since COVID, right? Even the last year.
True.
Not formal.
So, right, not formal,
right.
but
Yeah.
Not as a group.
And we've had them in the past a lot where the applicant walks us through and shows different features that really don't show up on plans sometimes, where you don't get a sense. And sometimes these, the stables on High Street, we were able to go deep back there, and you wouldn't do that on your own as a board member. So it's just one of those things. Maybe that's an offshoot of COVID. I don't know, and maybe applicants are hesitant to bring up that idea.
Yeah, could be, but you are always also free to ask for a site visit if you feel it's necessary. So if any application,
I guess, yeah, that's what I want to
benefit,
do.
you can ask.
Remind the board we have that opportunity. I know it's not easy. If it's on a Tuesday at 10:30 in the morning, that might be really difficult for a lot of us to get there. But it has been done in the past. And they're usually fairly accommodating to our schedules, should it come up. So that is something, I noticed in the last 3 years, we haven't done any site visits. The first year, understandably, but the last year, 2 years, we could have done them if the applicant wanted to. So anyway.
If I can chime in on that, this subject just a little bit. First, I just wanted to say, I think one of the reasons these meetings are working so well is because, and I'm not just saying this to say nice things, but I think that, Chris, you've done such a great job being chair, that the meetings are quite orderly and proceed nicely. And of course, Nora, with all of your expertise and meeting prep, I think this board has been very lucky that it's part luck, part skill that these meetings have gone so well. And the other thing that I appreciate about the virtual is that I think that when we have an applicant and they need support for their application, they're able to have their full team be present at what I assume is a reduced cost to them, because people don't have to travel. It's a lot more efficient, I think, for the applicant.
Yeah, when we were listening to University Station, Target was sending people in from Minneapolis quite a lot.
Yeah.
So they wouldn't have to do that now.
Right.
And Wegmans,
Yeah,
I think, in New York too.
I echo everything that's been said. I think it probably definitely makes it easier for applicants as well, to Kate's point, to bring in support from wherever. And it's far easier to have someone dial in than it is to have them show up. And from a personal standpoint, it's certainly convenient for me to be able to do this from my house. And I echo everything that's been said. Chris, you've done an excellent job of keeping meetings on track, be them in person or virtually. But I think a lot of that credit does go your way, because you keep the meetings going in the right direction. That being said, I'm not averse to meeting in person occasionally. The time that I wish that we were all in the same place is times when we have to review a plan. I think reviewing them on screen is sometimes tricky for me because I'm on a laptop. It's a teeny. If I had a giant monitor, it might be different. But I remember going to meetings as a resident and seeing previous incarnations of the board crowding around an engineering drawing and looking at it, and you notice the details. And I think for maybe, depending on the project, there are instances like that where it might be a value add for us to be in the same room with the Mylar and look at it and be able to do that. But in general, I've heard the same thing from residents, and I agree. And from my own perspective, I'm able to attend more other meetings that are virtual that I wouldn't be able to go to because I'd be out of the house every night if I did that. So I appreciate the value add of the virtual option for the people that want to attend our meetings. I think we get more engagement than we necessarily are able to. And it's not from a lack of desire. It's just, schedules are tough. So yeah, I would not be adverse to meeting in person when it would make sense. It's good for us to connect every now and then too. But like I said, like with a plan, I think it might be beneficial to do so. And I am all for site visits because there have been times where I've driven by properties and I feel I'm like, is someone going to call the police on me because I'm here by myself and I don't want to trespass, but I really need to see something because I couldn't make it work in my head looking at the 2-dimensional drawing or whatever. So I would be all for site visits for some of these projects where I think it really would be helpful to go stand on the spot and take a look at it.
To that end, Nora, would it be acceptable for us to ask you to contact a homeowner in this case, just to kind of clear the way? Hey, there might be some planning board members stopping by.
Sure. If you ever want to visit a site, you can let me know. And then if the board is in a hearing and reviewing something and decide then that they want to go to visit a site as a group, then we can schedule that. But I can always give the owners a heads up that individuals are coming or.
So I was actually earlier in the evening, I was going to request a site visit to 436 Washington Street. Like, I'd love to see what those spaces look like and where does the green space start and stop? Like, that would help me.
So would you like to schedule that before the April 11th meeting?
I would love to. Yeah.
Sure, we can do that.
If we're able to. I just want to also just chime in. I saw the Nora magic that was real magic at FinCom and didn't fully appreciate it till we were there. And that when Nora was dazzling others and, Chris was duly being the chair, but he was just letting Nora run with it. She was running the show and everyone was eating out of her hand. So that's my two cents.
The best knowledge is know when to get the hell out of the way.
Exactly. Guys, I'm gonna go catch a train, so I'm gonna log off. I'm gonna catch a train. Otherwise, I wait till 11:45. So unless we're done.
So motion to close.
Second.
Roll call. Ellen.
Aye.
Hey.
Aye.
Phil.
Aye.
Josh.
Aye.
And I also. Thank you
All
very
right.
much, everyone.
Thank
We
you
are
all.
Have a great night, guys.
right now on the 11th. Don't forget that officially we're in person unless we hear different from Nora.
Yes,
Right.
and I will send you an email about that, and I'll also send you dates for a site visit. All right?
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Good
Bye.
night.